We don't usually feel the full weight of regret when a relationship ends. Not at first. Not when she's still texting, still hoping, still hurting. It hits after. After she stops waiting. After she starts smiling again. But this time, not because of you. See, when someone we took for granted finally finds peace without us, something inside us snaps. We realize, too late, that her happiness no longer includes us. And that's when regret burns the most. Not because she's gone, but because she finally got what she deserved. And we're not the one giving it to her. Let's break down why that hurts, and what it teaches us about love, timing, and self-respect. When a relationship ends, there's often a period where one person feels the loss far more than the other. In many cases, she's the one who mourns first. She feels the weight of what was lost, of what could have been, and she grieves the connection. While you're still caught up in your freedom or your distractions, she's already dealing with the absence. She's crying into her pillow, replaying conversations in her head, wondering if she wasn't enough, or if she loved too much, or if maybe, just maybe, you'd come back. But time is a strange thing. It heals even what feels impossible to let go of. Slowly, she starts waking up without that heaviness in her chest. The texts she used to hope for no longer matter. The pictures that once made her heart ache now just look like memories, not possibilities. She begins to reconnect with herself. She pours her energy into her friends, her goals, her peace. She learns how to breathe again, without you, and then it happens. You notice. You see the change. Maybe you hear from a friend that she's doing better, or you scroll past her photo online, and there's something different in her smile. Not the one she used to fake for you when things were falling apart, but a real, grounded, effortless kind of joy. It's the look of someone who made it through hell and built a new life on the other side. That's when it hits you. Not a little sting, but a deep, gut-punching regret. Because now she's not hurting anymore. She's not waiting. She's not texting you late at night in the silence feels too loud. She's not hoping you'll come back. She's not available. Not emotionally, not mentally, not in any way. And suddenly, the weight of what you lost becomes undeniable. You had time. You had chances. She gave you more than she should have. She stayed through the apologies and the promises and the moments you said the right thing, but didn't back it up with action. And for a while, you believed you could always circle back. You assumed she'd still be there. Because that's what we do, right? We think loyalty means permanence. We think people will wait forever just because we haven't made up our mind yet. But now, you miss her, and not the broken version of her. The strong one, the one who's thriving, the one who laughs without hesitation, who shows up fully for herself, who no longer makes room in her heart for someone who didn't know how to protect it. And that's where the pain sharpens. Because you realize you don't just miss her. You miss the chance to have been the man she deserved before she became the woman who no longer needed you. You're not missing what you had. You're missing what you could have built if you had done the work when it mattered. And what really stings, knowing someone else might get the version of her you were too careless to appreciate. So you sit with that regret, not because she's out of reach, but because she finally reached herself. She came home to her own happiness. And you're no longer part of that picture. That's the moment when regret stops being a quiet whisper and becomes a scream. Because it's not just about losing someone. It's about realizing you lost someone right when she stopped losing herself over you. She didn't walk away overnight. That's the part most people miss. It's easy to look at the final moment, the silence, the goodbye, the distance, and think that's when she gave up. But the truth is, she gave you chance after chance long before that. Quiet chances, small moments where she was asking, not with words but with effort, will you show up for me this time? Every time she forgave you, every time she brushed off a broken promise, every time she made an excuse for why you were distant or inconsistent. That was a chance, a door still cracked open, a moment where she hoped you'd meet her halfway. But you didn't see it, or maybe you did, and you just thought those chances would never run out. You thought love meant unlimited tries, that if she loved you once, she'd always be there, waiting, no matter how many times you fell short. You mistook her patience for permanence, her loyalty for passivity, and because she didn't leave after the first disappointment or the second, you convinced yourself she never would. She stayed longer than she should have, not because she was weak, but because she cared that deeply. She saw something in you that even you couldn't fully see in yourself. She believed in who you could be, not just who you were acting like. She saw past your defenses, past your excuses, past the fear you never named. And she kept hoping that one day you'd finally rise into that version of yourself, that you'd stop running, stop hiding, stop taking her love for granted. She waited for that moment, for you. But here's the thing about love. It's not endless when it's one-sided. Even the strongest hearts get tired of breaking for someone who doesn't notice the damage. So one day, she stopped asking for more. She stopped bringing things up. She stopped trying to get you to understand how much she was giving and how little she was getting back. That wasn't peace. That was surrender. It's when someone starts detaching, not because they don't care, but because caring alone isn't enough. And when she finally left, it wasn't out of spite. It wasn't a dramatic exit. It was quiet. It was calm, because she had already left 100 times in her heart before she ever walked out the door. And now you're looking back, realizing how many chances she gave you, how many little moments you dismissed as just her being emotional, or just another fight, when in reality, they were invitations. Invitations to grow, to communicate, to show her she mattered. But you didn't take them. You thought she'd always bounce back, that she'd always forgive, that she'd always be there in the background, loving you even when you didn't love her the way she needed. You didn't see those moments for what they were, warnings, not ultimatums, not threats, just signals that she was slowly fading, that the version of her who would keep fighting for you was slowly slipping away. Now, in hindsight, it's all clear. The nights she cried and tried to talk, the way she still reached for your hand even after an argument, the texts she sent that you took hours to reply to, all of them were chances, and they weren't small, they were sacred. Because when someone loves you enough to keep trying after being hurt, that's not weakness, that's the deepest kind of strength. But strength has limits, and now that she's gone, you see the truth. You didn't lose her in the end. You lost her through every moment you didn't show up, and that's the kind of regret that doesn't go away easily, because it's not about what happened at the end. It's about all the times you had to fix it, and chose not to. There's a particular kind of pain that hits when you see her smiling again, really smiling, and you know it has nothing to do with you. It's not bitterness, not revenge, not some cold performance to make you jealous. It's genuine. Her glow isn't for show. It's not curated for social media. It's not a message to you. It's just her. Finally, fully, freely her. And that's when you realize you've lost something far deeper than just a relationship. You've lost access to the version of her that you once thought belonged to you. When you were together, you probably saw glimpses of it, that light inside her, the way she could light up a room with her laughter, the depth she brought to conversations, the loyalty, the warmth. But you got used to it. You started to expect it. You mistook it for something permanent, like it would always be there, no matter how much effort you did or didn't put in. You thought she'd always shine that way for you. What you didn't realize is that her glow was something she shared, not something you were entitled to. Back then, her glow was dimmed. Even if you didn't notice it, it was shadowed by uncertainty, by unmet needs, by the weight of trying to love someone who wouldn't meet her where she was. She still showed up, still tried, but there was a part of her that was always tired. Tired of trying to explain what she needed, tired of justifying why she felt hurt, tired of carrying a connection that felt more like a responsibility than a joy. That glow you remember was never fully alive while she was fighting to be seen. Now everything's different. She radiates. You can see it in her posture, in the lightness in her eyes, in the way she carries herself without apology. It's a kind of beauty that has nothing to do with revenge and everything to do with self-worth. She's no longer shrinking to make someone else feel bigger. She's no longer begging for breadcrumbs of affection. She's not auditioning for your attention. She's just existing, loved, whole, and fully grounded in her own energy. And the painful part is knowing she had that version of herself inside her all along. But you didn't create the space for it to grow. Someone else might be holding her hand now. Or maybe no one is. Maybe she's single and thriving. Either way, the point isn't about whether she's moved on with someone new. The point is that she's moved on from you, and her happiness isn't rooted in you anymore. You're no longer her source of comfort or joy or validation. That used to be your role. That used to be something you could count on, even when everything else was messy. But now, she gives those things to herself, or maybe someone who shows up in all the ways you didn't. You see, we don't just regret losing someone, we regret realizing we only saw a fraction of who they were capable of becoming. You're not missing the version of her that cried over you, that waited up at night, that kept believing your words would finally match your actions. You're missing this version, the one who is finally free, finally fulfilled, finally in love with her life. And the hardest truth to accept is that she didn't need you to get there. In fact, she had to let go of you to become her fullest self. That's why it hurts more now, because it's not just about missing her. It's about knowing she finally became the woman you always claimed to want, right after you gave her every reason to walk away. Her glow isn't about you anymore. It never really was. But now, without your shadow, it finally has room to shine. You told yourself she'd always be there. That no matter how distant you became, how long you took to call, how many times you broke a promise or let things slide, she'd still be there, waiting, forgiving, loving you through it. You didn't say it out loud, but deep down, you assumed her love came with no expiration date. You counted on her patience. You believed her heart was some endless well you could draw from whenever you needed comfort, attention, or reassurance. And for a while, it felt true. She was there through the worst of it. Through your silence, through your uncertainty, through your inability or refusal to fully choose her. She stayed because she believed in the story, your story. She had hope, not just in you, but in the idea that things could get better. That love was worth fighting for, that you'd eventually become the person she knew you had the potential to be. She stayed through the confusion, the excuses, the mixed signals. Every time she forgave you, every time she let something go, every time she lowered her standards just a little to make room for your flaws, it reinforced that believing that she would always stay. And so, you pushed boundaries, not because you were cruel, but because you were comfortable. You tested how far her love would stretch. You didn't realize you were building a wall of disappointment, one broken promise at a time. And she was on the other side, slowly, quietly realizing that the love she was giving wasn't being matched, that what she called hope was actually self-neglect, that her loyalty wasn't being honored. It was being used. But she didn't leave right away. That's what makes it easy to believe she'd never go. She still texted back, still smiled when you showed up, still made time when you asked. Even when you gave her the bare minimum, she responded with grace. You told yourself, she'll never leave. This is what we do. You convinced yourself that as long as you kept a foot in the door, she'd never close it. What you didn't see was how she was changing, not all at once, but slowly. She started seeing things more clearly. She stopped making excuses. She stopped needing you to choose her, because she began choosing herself. It's subtle at first. She stops texting first. She's quieter in arguments. She no longer lights up when you walk into the room. The spark you were so sure was permanent begins to fade. And you chalk it up to a phase, not realizing it's a shift. Then one day it's done. She's done. Not with anger, not with tears, just done. It's not a conversation. It's not a dramatic ending. It's just stillness, distance, A kind of peace that says, I've finally accepted that this is not what I deserve. And suddenly, you're the one left waiting. You're the one staring at your phone, wondering if she'll come back. But she doesn't. Because this time, she isn't trying to teach you a lesson or make you miss her. She's just finished. You thought her love meant forever. But she was never yours to own, only someone you were meant to honor. And when you didn't, she left. Now she's moving on, not because she stopped loving you, but because she finally loved herself more. And the hardest part, knowing she would have stayed, knowing she wanted you to step up, knowing all she ever needed was for you to try, really try. You thought she'd always be there, and that's exactly why she's not. There's a cruel irony in how regret works. It doesn't show up when you have everything. It waits. It lingers quietly in the background until the moment it knows you'll feel it the most. When what you once had is no longer available to you, that's when it strikes. That's when you realize that all the things she used to give so freely, her time, her softness, her laughter, her loyalty, aren't yours anymore. They used to be. You didn't have to earn them. You didn't even have to ask. She gave because she loved you, without conditions, without walls, without hesitation. And now those same things someone else gets them. Or maybe no one does. Maybe she's just giving them back to herself. Either way, they're no longer yours. And that's the pain that hits hardest. Not just the loss of a person, but the loss of how that person used to love you. You start to miss the little things. The way she used to check in with even when you didn't respond for hours. The way she made plans around your life. The way she noticed when something was off and tried to make it better. The way she believed in you more than you believed in yourself. You used to roll your eyes at those things. You used to think they'd always be there, because that's just who she was. Loving you was natural for her. She didn't need a reason. She just did it. But what you didn't realize is that love like that is a choice. A person chooses to stay, to forgive, to show up again and again. And when you stop appreciating those choices, they stop being made. She didn't stop loving you overnight. She stopped because she got tired of loving you alone, of giving with nothing in return, of being the only one fighting for something you both said you wanted. You had your shot, probably more than one. She gave you time and patience and explanations you didn't deserve. She gave you chances you didn't even notice were chances. And now that she's no longer available, you're starting to feel everything she felt for so long. Now, suddenly, you're the one staring at her photo. You're the one hoping for a text. You're the one wondering who's in her life now. You're finally ready to give her everything she used to beg for. But now she's not there to receive it. That's when the reality hits. You want what she gave freely, but you didn't value it when it was yours. And now, no matter how hard you try, you can't just walk back into her life and claim what you once had. Because she's changed. Because she had to. She became someone who no longer waits for love to meet her halfway. She's learned to protect her peace, to hold her standards, to love herself enough not to return to someone who only realized her worth in hindsight. That version of her, the one who would have dropped everything for you, who would have forgiven you again, who would have made room for you no matter how many times you took up all the space. That version no longer exists. You didn't just lose the relationship, you lost her. The her that loved you in the deepest, most unconditional way. And you can't get that back. Not by apologizing, not by changing, not even by finally becoming the person she always wanted you to be. Because now, she's giving all that love to herself, or to someone who knew what it was worth the first time around. Regret doesn't always come from the things you did. Sometimes it comes from the things you didn't do, the words you never said, the effort you never made, the version of yourself you never became. You sit there, alone with your thoughts, wondering what might have happened if you had shown up differently, if you had acted on the chances she gave you, if you had taken her seriously when she said what she needed. But you didn't. You told yourself you had time, that there'd be another moment, that she'd wait. And now you're living with the echo of what could have been. Regret is loud in the silence after she's gone. It's in the space where her voice used to be. It's in the photos you can't bring yourself to delete. It's in the memories that don't ask for permission before they show up. You're haunted, not just by her absence, but by the version of you she believed in. Because she didn't leave for no reason. She left because the person she needed you to become never showed up. And now you can see it all clearly. Every time she tried to reach you, every moment she gave you the opportunity to meet her in the middle, every warning she offered with love and patience, you didn't take those opportunities seriously. Maybe you were scared. Maybe you weren't ready. Maybe your pride convinced you that emotions were weakness, that vulnerability was too risky, that she wasn't really going anywhere. But she did. And now, the pain you feel isn't just about losing her. It's about losing the chance to be the man you could have been if you had chosen growth instead of comfort. If you had chosen courage over ego. She wasn't asking for perfection. She was asking for presence, for effort, for emotional honesty. And instead of hearing her, you avoided the hard conversations. You shut down when she opened up. You deflected when she got too close. And all the while, she was hoping you'd come around, hoping you'd see that love can't survive in a one-sided emotional economy. But now that she's no longer there, now that she's happy, really happy, without you, regret becomes unavoidable. You don't just regret what happened, you regret the version of yourself you refused to step into. That's the real heartbreak. Knowing that who she needed to be was never beyond your reach. You just didn't reach for it. You thought you had more time, but time ran out. She stopped trying. She stopped hoping. And while you're just now beginning to feel the weight of everything that slipped through your fingers, she's already free. She did her healing. She cried her tears. She picked herself up. And in doing so, she became the version of herself you always said she could be. But without you in the picture, now you're left with the echo of her absence and the voice inside your head that says, you could have done better. You could have been better. And the truth is, you still can, but it won't bring her back. Because regret doesn't rewind time. It doesn't undo the choices you made when you thought you could afford not to care. It doesn't restore what you lost. All it does is remind you of what was possible, what was right there. If only you had been brave enough to meet love with maturity instead of fear. So now, while she's finally living the life she deserves, you're living with the ghost of your potential. And that's the cruelest part of regret. It doesn't just remind you who you lost. It reminds you of who you didn't become. The truth is, we never really understand the cost of inaction until it's too late. We take for granted what feels certain, assuming love will always wait for us to be ready. But love isn't a guarantee. It's a gift. And when we don't honor that gift, it leaves. She waited, she gave, she believed. And in the end, she chose herself. That wasn't weakness. It was strength. The strength to walk away from almost and make space for more. And now she's happy. Not because you hurt her, but because she healed in spite of it. So let this be your wake-up call. Not to win her back, but to finally become the person you should have been all along. Not for her approval, not for redemption, but because the pain of regret should never be wasted. You don't get to rewrite the past, but you do get to shape who you become next. Choose better, love better, before someone else has to heal without you.